Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. Today I'm covering Gilmore Girls, Season 1, Episode 6, Rory's Birthday Parties. Such a good episode. I know I say that every week, but this week was filled with so much with the two birthday parties, and I cannot wait to get into it and talk about it with you. Plus, we see Luke and Lorelai have a moment. Yay! Hey guys, I just want to take a second and say if you're enjoying this show, please check out my Patreon. Go to patreon.com, search Real Housewives Recaps, or check the comments below and I'll put a link. And for $1 a week, you can support my show and get 4 bonus episodes per month. I'm covering Scary Island, like the greatest season of Real Housewives of New York. So check it out. Thanks so much. So we start out at Emily and Richard's. They want Rory and Lorelai to go around the house and pick out what they want in their will left to them. And so they give them Post-it notes, and they encourage them to stick Post-it notes on the things that they want. It's just such a funny idea, and so out of the blue and weird. And Lorelai and Rory are like, what? And then something kind of big happens, and after dinner, the maid brings out pudding. And this becomes a plot point throughout the episode. The reason this is big is because Emily and Richard do not care about pudding. And Emily says, yes, but you do. So it's just a big thing. This maid serves it to them in the crystal bowl, so they make a big deal about it. And the fact that she listened to what Lorelai had to say and remembered it and served them pudding. Emily asks Rory if she likes the crystal bowl. She says yes. She said, okay, you put a Post-it note on it. And then we see the opening credits. So it starts out, they're still doing this Post-it thing, looking around the house, feeling very uncomfortable about it. And Emily comes in and they talk about it's Rory's birthday on Friday. So Lorelai shoos Rory away and says, hey mom, her birthday's on Friday. Can we just move the dinner to Saturday? Emily says, Friday night is my night. Lorelai says, I know, I was just asking. And Emily reminds her of the loan. And Lorelai says, I didn't intend for this loan to be a constant source of blackmail over my head. So you'd think Lorelai has put her foot down and said, nope, we're not coming. We'll see you on Saturday. But no. She ends up in the car with Rory and says they wouldn't cave. So they'll do Emily's party on Friday, and they'll do a Stars Hollow party for Rory on Saturday. And Rory seems okay about it. So then we go over to the Independence Inn. Lorelai is very excited and telling Suki that Emily served pudding. I told you this would be a plot point. So that would mean she actually listened, took a mental note on something we talked about, and something we cared about. So, it's a big deal for her because Emily never listens to her. We see Jackson come in, and he's made a cross-pollination of raspberry and kumquat. And only Suki gets super excited about it, and I just love to see the interactions between Jackson and Suki. They're so cute together. Lorelai could care less. Michelle comes in looking for Lorelai. Lorelai tells him about the party and tells him, go ahead and come up with an excuse why you can't come. Michelle says, I'm out of town. And Lorelai says, you used that excuse last year. Saturday night, presents mandatory. Then over at Rory and Lorelai's house, we got Emily calling. She wants to go shopping with Lorelai to get a birthday present for Rory. And something special, something that she wants, something that you would get her is what she says. And Lorelai she tries to get out of it, but she's touched by the pudding. Again, the pudding. I'm going to make a drinking game out every time I say pudding. But she agrees to meet with Emily the next day at 3 p.m. We see Rory at Chilton. Tristan gives her such a hard time. He comes up, wanted to say happy birthday, and she said, how did you know? And he pulls out a fancy invitation, and turns out Emily has invited all the kids at Chilton, and Rory is mortified. She doesn't like the kids at Chilton. We see Lorelai and Emily shopping together. Emily is just looking at the most insane birthday presents. She's looking at like these fancy hats and Mont Blanc pins and things like that. Things that Rory just wouldn't care about. Emily even looks at pearls. And Lorelai says, Mom, she's a young girl. Think of something young. And they look around, and Lorelai's like, look at this bracelet. And Emily's appalled because it's like $12. And she's like, I cannot get her a $12 gift. But they settle on the bracelets. Emily likes it. Lorelai arrives at Luke's, and Luke says she's not here yet. Lorelai says, okay, you'll have to entertain me until she gets here, so dance burger boy. And he says, will you marry me? And she's like, what? And Luke says, I'm just looking for something to shut you up. Oh, they're so cute together. I love their moments like this. She invites Luke to Rory's birthday party, Saturday night, 7 p.m. Rory walks in, and she just says that she had the suckiest day, and she's going to invent a new word for how bad it sucked. So Lorelai tells Rory about the good day she had with Emily, and that she listened to her for once. Rory's surprised because they don't usually have such a good time together, Emily and Lorelai. So now she doesn't want to say that Emily invited all those kids in her class and that she's pissed at Emily. So in the middle of the night, Lorelai goes in and gives Rory a kiss, and apparently she went into labor around 4 a.m. so that she does this every year, and it's so cute because we continue to see it on the episodes. She climbs in her bed and tells her the story of her birth, and it's just a funny scene. So the next day, Rory and Lane arrive at Luke's, and Luke, he did something really special. He set up a birthday table for her. They're both shocked to see it, but he's like, turn around. He's got balloons and coffee cake set up for her. It's just such a sweet surprise. Rory is telling Lane that she's absolutely dreading tonight. It's the night at her grandparents'. She has to see all those kids from Chilton, and she just really doesn't want to go. So then we see Dean walk in, and of course she hasn't told Lane yet, so they're just kind of making eyes at each other, and it's so cute. They're kind of sneaking glances, and they're nervous. So he mouths happy birthday, and she's super excited about it. Then we're at Emily and Richards, and we see Emily yelling at everybody. She's in full-on Emily mode, hostess mode. She's yelling at everybody that's setting up the party and making people measure how far the candles are apart from each other. It should be 6 inches. And we see a moment between her and Richard, and they're getting ready, and they're going to celebrate Rory, and this is where Emily is clueless. She thinks she's doing all the right things, but this is not something that Rory actually wants. Again, she's scared to tell Lorelai because the fragile relationship. So they arrive, and they're getting ready, and Emily's super excited about it. Rory's just not. So she goes up to change and get ready for the party. So Rory and Lorelai are just kind of hanging out with each other because there's all these stuffy people there and they just don't really know them. And Lorelai's drinking and getting a little tipsy, but she runs into this Mitzi she knew from high school. Mitzi asked about Christopher, so they're kind of introducing this character to us. Of course, Rory's dad. Rory walks around and doesn't know anybody, and it's awkward, and they're like, whose party is this anyway? They don't know who it's for her, and she feels so uncomfortable. It's just one awkward stare after another, and she just doesn't want to be there, so she turns to leave, and who does she run into? Paris! So this is the first time we've seen Paris outside of school. She runs into Paris, whose parents made her come, and it's just so funny to see the two of them interact. Neither one want anything to do with each other. And it's funny knowing where, without giving spoilers, where all this relationship is going to go. It's pretty funny. So Tristan walks in being Tristan. He tells her he likes her, and he's being super douchey about it. And she's basically saying, like, why are you messing with me? And he's just still being Tristan about it. Richard walks up being completely clueless and realizes Tristan is his grandfather, somebody Richard knows. So Richard's like, I approve. And it's just uncomfortable. Rory walks through the party, and Emily stops her and says, you should say a few words to your guests. Rory snaps and says, they're not my guests. It's not even my party. Rory just loses it for the first time we've seen, and Emily is just super pissed about it. It's bringing back flashbacks of all the times Lorelai acted like this, I guess, growing up. And so Emily stays pissed about it. She ends up yelling at Lorelai about it, and Lorelai's like, what'd I do? We see Rory go up to Lorelai's old bedroom growing up, and it's interesting to see her there, and her mom saying, I haven't really spent time in here since I left home. She left at 16 when she was pregnant with Rory. So Rory ends up telling Lorelai what's happened, and Lorelai starts to understand and says, listen, it's going to be okay. You'll apologize, and all will be forgotten. They talk about what it was like to grow up in the house, and then Emily ends up coming up to look for them, and Rory does try to apologize then, but Emily is not having it whatsoever. So the party ends, everybody leaves, and Rory is once again trying to talk to Emily, and she completely dismisses her. Instead, she just says, Richard, they're going, without actually even talking to her, and you can just see how it goes. I mean, Lorelai ends up saying, you're doing the same thing to her that you did to me, which is try to control her. And if she doesn't want to do what you want her to do, you shut her out. And I thought that was a great line. That kind of gives insight into their relationship. We see Richard giving Rory a check for Fez because he just digs Rory. And he's being sweet to her. He knows how much she wants to travel. So Saturday morning at Lorelai and Rory's house, Suki is getting ready for the party. She's going to be catering it. So she's brought all this food to make, and I always want to eat everything that Suki makes. I love seeing everything she cooks. So Rory's plan for the day is to go out and go to this college fair. She's pretty excited about it. She's looking around. She ends up at the Harvard table, and who does she run into? Paris. Paris says they have to figure this out because they're both going to try to go to Harvard. And Paris ends up asking her, are you seeing Tristan? And then she asks Rory, do you like him? And Rory says, no, not even a little. And Paris says, nice party. And Rory says, thanks. And that's the first time we actually see that they could get along. Meanwhile, at the house, there's a nice party going on. It's more relaxed with friends and presents, and it's loud, it's messy. It's complete opposite of Richard and Emily's. And Suki brings out this cake, and it's the funniest cake. It's a cake with her face on it. So they propose a toast to Rory, and they're eating the cake with her face on it, and the doorbell rings, and Lorelai yells, who the hell's ringing the doorbell? Get your ass in here. And it's Richard and Emily, and it's awkward, and nobody knows what to do. So we find out that they have never actually been to this house before. They said, was explained she used to live at the inn with Rory, and they'd come visit when she was a baby sometimes, but they really haven't been to this house. Suki tells Lorelai that they are out of ice, so Lorelai is about to run out, and that's when Luke walks in. Luke, I love Luke. He walks in with a big bag of ice. Lorelai hugs him, and Emily sees it. Ooh! And Emily sees it, and it's awkward. So Luke walks in, and they end up upstairs. Hold on. Richard is actually outside, and Rory gives him a magazine. Emily's wandering around the house since they really haven't been there. So she finds this blanket, and Lorelai explains that it's made out of Rory's onesies from when she was a baby. And Emily asks about Luke. She assumes that they've been dating. Lorelai's denying it, but she's smiling really big about it. And then Emily finds a picture of Lorelai in a cast. Emily had no idea she broke her leg. And Lorelai says, yeah, I broke it in yoga class. And it just shows how fractured the relationship is, that they had this whole period of time where they didn't speak at all. And Lorelai thanks her for coming, says it meant a lot. And Emily says, it's my granddaughter after all, we should be here. Emily gets Richard, and they end up leaving, and they actually say they had a lovely time. So Suki and Lorelai are cleaning up after the party, and Lorelai's washing dishes, and she looks out the window, and she sees Dean. We see Dean and Rory outside. So again, Rory hasn't told her yet about Dean, and we see he's giving her a birthday present. It's so sweet. He made her this bracelet. And Rory absolutely loves it. He puts it on her, and she's super excited. And I think Lorelai is surprised to see it through the window. She figured she'd know about it, but she didn't know yet. So it's kind of a teeny tiny taste of what Emily went through not knowing things about Lorelai, and I think it pains her a little bit. And that is it for the episode. It's a little darker episode, but I love it because you really get to see the fracture between Emily and Lorelai and the family, and how they, there was a period of time where they didn't know each other. So I just thought they did a great job explaining this backstory, and showing the difference in the two parties, and, how they live their life versus how Emily and Richard live theirs. So, again, I love this show. I'll talk about it all day long. So, leave me a comment below. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you're thinking of the season. I really want to get people watching it. So, let your friends know if they're into Gilmore Girls. Come over and watch it. So, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Follow me here. Follow me on Twitter @RealRecaps, and I thank you guys for everything. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.